All right, so back with another UND football preview here for the Potato Bowl today. And after a pretty interesting start to the season against Nebraska here, Tom, does this first week change kind of the expectations, maybe going into this game against a good Northern Iowa team, and then maybe later on?
Yeah, I think your worry is going to be, how could UND's three offensive linemen who are making their first career start, how are they going to do, you know, in Nebraska, in Lincoln? And so I think coming out of there, without those guys hurting you, and maybe even playing pretty well, that's going to give you a feel that maybe this season can have a different trajectory. That your worry is that the lights were too bright for them, and you don't have a lot of other places to turn when you're starting a few redshirt freshmen, right? Like there's not a lot of, obviously depth is an issue if that's where you're at. So for those guys to have nice performances at Nebraska, that puts UND on a little bit different course. Well, with that said, does Nebraska turn out to be a massive fraud this year? Does Air Force drill everybody? And so Northern Iowa's lost to them last week doesn't look as bad, but coming out of week one, you have to view that, North Dakota came out with positive and Northern Iowa came out with negative. And so, this matchup should be really tight. Northern Iowa was known for stopping the run. They just didn't do it last week. So, be interesting to see if UND can get a push here.
Yeah, and then speaking of offensive line too, it kind of stays in the picture here, just on the Northern Iowa side, and how much of a difficulty does that pose maybe to the front line there for UND?
Yeah, it's curious. Northern Iowa's huge. I've never seen an offensive line like that. I mean, it's like 6'4" to 6'6" across the board, 310 to 330 across the board. That's a big old line. In the same token, they didn't really push around Air Force to run for a whole lot of yardage. So, I think they'll do a pretty good job protecting Theo Day back there, quarterback. And I'll be curious to see what they look like, in the run blocking game, because North Dakota's gonna have to be good there. We'll learn a lot more about both of these teams after this game.
And then, for as much as the trenches are going to matter here today, how much maybe pressure is on Isaiah Smith here, and how much maybe would having Luke Skokna back sort of maybe levitate or alleviate some of the pressure from him?
Yeah, because I thought where Northern Iowa really struggled last week was tackling in space on the perimeter. They handled the dive of the triple option okay. It was everybody getting around to the edge that was scoring these 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown runs. So I was curious how UND can do in space in the perimeter. Guys who are slippery, maybe a Bo Belquist at wide receiver. Isaiah Smith should have an opportunity to have some one-on-one situations with defensive backs. Can he win those? Luke Skokna would be excellent this game. Another guy that I would have been curious about if he'd been fully healthy here is a Red Wilson, who's shown that he can be really dangerous in space. He had some really impressive 5-yard receptions against Nebraska that you just saw and thought, boy, if there's FCS room there where, guys are maybe just a little bit slower to get there, I think Red Wilson could have a big game here and there this year. But he's a little banged up right now. Got hurt in practice this week. It looks like he's trying to give it a go right now. I'm just watching out there on the field. He's dressed. But I think it's probably a matter of testing that leg to see how he feels.
And then just any other news on the injury front that you've maybe seen during this week coming off of Nebraska?
Yeah, really the only new big one, was Sammy Fort, starting safety. If there's good news from that perspective in terms of how that position group is affected, that's a pretty deep position group in terms of guys who are a lot like each other, for better or worse. And so I think, having Jason Coley in there, Caden Coppinen, they still have Malachi Buckner and Ethan Ball. That's a fine foursome. You'd like to see Sammy Fort get back and get healthy. There's a reason he's a starter. But UND should be able to cover that up okay. Braden Bryant, I just saw walk by He was dressed, which surprises me. He's slated to be a starting guard this year. Had an injury right before Nebraska, which forced UND to kind of move some things around. I expect Seth Anderson, the North Dakota State transfer from Moorhead, to start today at guard, but Braden Bryant being dressed right now is a little bit of a surprise to me. So, that might be something to watch to see if they try to get him in the game.
And then just, home opener, 35-year kind of streak here on the line, but just sort of a prediction maybe as to whether or not that holds up, or, just how much does the home field advantage really mean for UND this year when it's kind of just dome stadium, getting back to normal here?
Yeah, no, I think if this game's in Cedar Falls, I have a whole different vibe on it. For whatever reason, teams come in here and they struggle. And some of it's the noise. I mean, you saw it with North Dakota State. The Bison completely manhandled North Dakota in the Fargo Dome. The last two times they come to Grand Forks, and they were, early in that game were completely out of sync. And I think that just happens to teams in this building that traps the noise. And there's no reason it shouldn't be a good turnout. Potato Bowl home opener, Northern Iowa coming to town is a name brand, team that people recognize. Beautiful out, tailgating lot, looked like it was pretty full. So should be a good turnout, should be a good game. Missouri Valley Football Conference followers are going to be watching this game because it's going to really determine how the middle of that conference shakes out and how people view both of these teams.
And you have a final score prediction?
Yeah, I think North Dakota wins 27-24. I just think the Lair Center crowd is the difference. I think there's still a lot of questions about Northern Iowa. That was a triple option attack that beat them, but it didn't just beat them, it got them good. And so I'm curious to see what their confidence level is at right now.
All right. And then speaking of that Missouri Valley kind of featured game here, it'll be on ESPN3. And to maybe alleviate some of the confusion there, I believe ESPN3, if you have a cable subscription, there's no additional costs. It's just sign in with your cable subscription and you should be able to get the game online. But not on TV, will be on radio. But other than that, you can follow along online at the Herald website with Tom, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, sounds good. See you.